Welcome to the Wrestling Philosophy Show, where we discuss unique perspectives and beliefs on the sport of wrestling. Give us a follow or subscribe on various social media platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Enjoy the show.
This show was a little different take than normal. I sit down with Gabe Kennedy, my first cousin. Gabe is the host of the Bases Loaded podcast on Spotify. He has some great takes on football, baseball, and just sports all around. Gabe and I sit down and talk youth sports memories of growing up. You know, I have 3 younger brothers. He has 2 older brothers, and we have a lot of memories growing up, traveling back and forth, and with a big extended family, a lot of memories. And with the holidays, I thought it was fitting to have an episode like this, and we've been talking for a while, having a conversation. And with our grandma passing 2 months ago, it's something we can share with our families and just some good memories that we stirred up. Hope you guys enjoy this different take on this show. What's up, Gabe?
How's it going, Jared?
Good, man. Good. It's been a long time coming. We've been talking about this for a while, I think, right?
Yeah, it's I think it's been brewing in our brains for a while, but like with all the other stuff, not that 2020 has been busy, but with all the other stuff going on, we kind of put it off. But it's awesome. You reached out to me about a week and a half. You're like, hey, dude, we got to get together. We got to get this out there for the holidays, get something out there. So I'm glad to join you. My kids are upstairs napping, I think. So I got some free time. It's good. Yeah.
Hopefully. Right. So for the listeners that don't know, we're first cousins, right? Moms are sisters. So it's pretty cool family story. We were talking, we used to get together on, all the holidays, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, right? Grandma's house.
Oh yeah. Easter. I remember going to her house for grandpa's house for Easter. And we had to find the little styrofoam plates the bag was in it. We had to find them. It was always like, how rude is that of kids to just go into grandma and grandpa's house, go right past them and look for your stuff? That's awful. And I didn't realize it was a kid. I was having fun, but now I'm like, son of a gun, that was so rude. But it was fun. I remember that stuff. I remember looking for the eggs, which would have been their front yard.
Right.
Which I remember looking for that, and
like a 5x5 yard, right?
Yeah, but it didn't. It felt like the Jake progressive field back in the day. It was big enough. But no, man, it's funny because obviously I was born in Sandusky, and my mom and dad are obviously from Sandusky. But when we moved to Shelby, when my dad got into General Motors, I was 3 years old. So in our drive, I feel like when we were growing up was a big deal.
Oh yeah,
in our 100%. Drive now, I mean, it's not a big deal at all.
We would meet halfway in like Monroeville.
Yes, we met at the dam. We met at the dam. Yes. And yes, dude, that was I love it. I love reminiscing about the old times.
Yeah, that was you're right. That hour drive seemed like forever, but it was awesome. Yeah, the holidays, right? That grandma's packed in that little house, right? We had to have 50, 60 people easy, right?
Well, as I say, the best thing for that was when you look at female and male, you've got females who when all the sisters get together, wow. I mean,
4 sisters, 4 brothers, right?
You talk about a noise ordinance going on like that is and then you got all the guys. No one says a word. All the guys are in the living room, just watching like whatever it was. Would it be like Christmas Eve? We'd watch like the on Sports Center. They'd have like the plays and the year in review or whatever it was.
Right.
We just sit there and watch it. That was it. The guy, we never said a word. The women are screaming, laughing, and I'm like, that's the stuff though that I just remember thinking. Now that you get older and obviously we don't have that with, grandma recently passing and grandpa passing too. It's just, you don't get that stuff back, but it's like the cool thing to me is, looking back and thinking about that and remembering that stuff. And it's crazy too, cause you've got kids, they'll never know how you grew up, they'll never know, your relationship with your cousins, aunts, uncles, and all that stuff. But it's awesome stuff to think about and reminisce for sure.
That's for certain. My dad, tells stories about his cousins. Yeah, we used to do this with these cousins and not do anything with these cousins. And I think we have a lot of good stories. And that's kind of wanted to draw some of these stories out, that we have, because that trip down to Shelby, man. I remember listening to your first, your first podcast, and you talking baseball, and I played up, I think, till 6th grade maybe. But my memories was coming down to Shelby and playing in your guys' backyard. That was baseball to us. We played in our backyard here in Sandusky, but coming down to the Kennedys, Nick, Gabe, and Josh. We're going to Nick, Gabe, and Josh's, right? And the video games, and that was the cool cousins, back in the day, and it was a blast.
Well, as I say, I always remember because when you guys were moving in to the house that your parents are at with above the business there, when you guys were moving in, I remember going there and playing hide and go seek. I remember I got stung in the neck. I got stung in the neck, and we were playing hide and go seek, and alls was up was like I don't even know if drywall was up yet. It was just basically the structure of the home. And it was huge. It was because it was all open. There was nothing there yet.
Did you come over when we played baseball up there?
Oh yeah, dude.
Okay, okay. I didn't know that.
Because you had that car lot right there, and it would be like one of those things where you want to try to go opposite field to drill a car. But now again, I'm like, how terrible are kids? What are you doing?
No, I'm talking about upstairs. So my dad built it. He built it with no supporting walls. So there was a good month span where we played inside the house while they're doing the exterior, and to hit a home run you had to hit it out the window, so there's no supporting walls, and it's a square, right? I think it was 90 by 90 or something. Yeah, I forget what the dimensions are.
Man, I don't remember that. I
remember
know.
Zach and Kyle were over, I think, and if you hit it up in the rafters, the trusses, it was an automatic out, so you always had to like bounce it and like let it wiffle ball bounce around. We have it spray painted lines baseball. We played inside until they put the walls up. But yeah, backyard baseball there, we had the trees and the car lot next door.
Oh, that was great. That was great. And again, that field felt bigger. But yeah, whenever you guys would come down to Shelby, we had some of our neighbor friends come down, and I remember
Tony,
it's funny.
Right?
Yeah, Tony Young, man.
Yeah.
I remember when we first talked about, let's get together and do this podcast and share some memories. One of the ones I wrote down was playing backyard football. Excuse me. And I remember, we wanted to go outside and play, and I forget who was there. I think it was, I can't remember. I know obviously my brother Nick was there and your brother Corey, and I want to say you and Drew were there.
Okay.
But I remember we were getting ready to go play backyard football, and Nick and Corey were building a fort.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring it up. They were playing the fort, like Star Wars, like me, you, Drew, and I think Josh were going out to play, football or something.
Yeah, stuff.
Right? Yeah, right. They're
like, no, we they're like, hey, can you get us an extra blanket to drape over these chairs? Are you freaking kidding me? Like, let's go play football.
Finally have new teams, right? We have new teams.
Right.
Like, it's like,
right.
Yes.
I remember that. And I'm like, I'll never forget those guys ruining that day of trying to play football because we didn't have enough guys,
Right. You guys' house was the coolest. We had the 3-wheeler and all the dirt bike, right? What else? You guys had all that stuff. And
yeah, go ahead.
My memory of that, obviously coming down there, but it's because we're starting to almost like tradition with my family now with it too. But the one time we came down, everyone camped in your backyard. How many people? I don't remember. Remember, there's a picture out there, and there was probably 20 kids, ranging from newborn to maybe high school, right? So there had to be 5, 6 families, maybe 8. I don't know. How many families do you remember? How many?
Dude, there was a lot, and we had the whole. My dad's backyard's not even an acre, but it felt like huge. A campground. You know what I'm saying? Like we had tents out there, and I remember thinking how awesome that was. In moments and days and events like that, seem like at the time they last forever, and they don't. But they seem like they last forever, but the memory does. And it's funny that, you think back and remember that stuff of, making s'mores and sitting around the fire, and
Pie
uncle,
irons.
yeah, pie irons. You got some uncle saying something funny, and it just, that's awesome stuff as a kid. That, when you look now, you say something or something happens, you're thinking, my kids aren't even paying attention. It's like, I think they do. Kids do pay attention more than you think.
Right. Now there's some good times. I remember talking about the meeting at the dam. Josh forgot to put the sugar in the Kool-Aid. We had a lunch. We had to have lunch with sugarless Kool-Aid. Thanks, Josh. So
It's colored water.
yes, yeah, exactly. That's all it is. So getting into your podcast, so I obviously will tell stories. I think they'll come up naturally, but
Yeah.
I guess what was the inspiration? I know I really liked what you talked about, your connection. Did you coach baseball for a few years?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
at Clear
Yep.
Fork?
I coached at Clear Fork
Okay.
for 1 year, and I coached at Shelby for 3 years, in Winford High School for 3 years as well. So
Okay. And I remember coming down to some of you guys, coming down because we used to stay when, if my parents were going on vacation or stuff, we stayed. I remember going to games. I don't know if it was Josh's or yours, but I remember being down there at some of the parks and hanging out with you guys. But I guess now that you're into your podcast and the inspiration, behind it, what was the inspiration? And I guess is there a certain story? I know you talked about a few growing up. Was there any other that you haven't discussed? And I guess,
well, as I say, as far as the inspiration behind my podcast was, I teach ninth grade world history at Clear Fork High School, and when the whole COVID thing happened, I remember we had a staff meeting, and our principal said, we're gonna be out for a couple weeks, and that's what I thought it was gonna be, a couple weeks.
right.
And he's like, this is what we need to do. And I'm not the most tech savvy person, but I feel like I'm tech wise, I'm good enough to be able to, to make it work, type of deal. So I remember having a staff meeting, and he said, you're gonna have to do YouTube videos for lectures, or you're gonna have to do this or that, and all this stuff. And I'm just like, and this is before Zoom really made it big.
Right.
And I'm just like, dude, like, I don't want to see my face. I don't want my kids to have to see my face. Like, what do we? And then he mentioned to the whole staff, he said, or you could make a podcast. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, I've been listening to some podcasts like last fall, last winter, a lot of fantasy baseball and fantasy football podcasts. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. So I was like, maybe I'll mess around with that. So I looked into it, and started to do that for my lectures. I'm like, you could just do a podcast. That way the kids can listen to it as many times as they want. It's not live. So if they miss something, or if they're late or have to leave,
Right. Great idea.
that was kind of the whole thing behind it. But I've also, my wife, Tara, and I, we have 3 kids, three kids, all of them under 3.5, twins, man,
Both have twin girls that people.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got, we got 3 kids. So my coaching career has been put on hold because of the busyness of kids. So doing a podcast for school, and then realizing, I listen to sports podcasts. Like, why don't I start doing this for sports? Because I'm missing that. I don't want to say value, but I'm going to say value. Like, the value to me, like, I love sports. I've always loved sports, whether it was doing it, coaching it, watching it, talking about it. It's everything in life. There's so many lessons that come from some aspect of a sport.
And there's no sports going on then too.
Right.
So
you
got to get your fix, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, I got to get my fix, because I've been out of coaching. Like, I coached football for 7 or 8 years. And every Friday night I'll get on Twitter and look at the area schools and see what's going on, and try to follow the games. And it's just a part of me. Like I said, you feel like you got a little bit less value. Like, there's other kids I haven't helped, other relationships I haven't built, but it's okay, because I got my own thing going on with my kids and my family. But I'm like, I need to find that fix. And the podcast has been a fix. It started off with just baseball. And then it's evolved into, football, basketball. We've got wrestlers, volleyball, softball, soccer. I'm trying to hit up, every sport. I've had athletes, coaches. It has been an absolute blast. And one of my buddy and Shelby, when the whole podcast thing started, he texted me and he's like, "Hey man, listen to your podcast." He's like, "You've got a great face for radio," and I thought that's a great compliment. That is a great compliment.
Awesome. That's awesome. No, it's I've been enjoying him. I know what you had some wrestlers with Brody Conley. We see him.
Oh yeah,
He's a stud.
yeah, absolute stud.
He's a
Oh
stud.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
And now I finally get Jared Opfer. I mean, that was that was the big fish the whole time, all summer.
No.
I'm like, I've got to get the big.
Well,
fish.
we talked right when you kind of kicked it off, and some odds and ends. I remember listening to that first one. I was like, yeah, great job, and this is awesome. And you're like, I gotta have you on. I was like, yeah, someday, and so here we are, I guess.
Yeah, we finally got it. We finally figured it out.
yeah, that's awesome. Pretty cool. I know you mentioned in that first episode too, and I know him pretty well. Obviously, not nearly as you, as much as you, but always one of my favorite uncles to talk to. Your dad, right? It's funny, we seen him at Grandma's, celebration. My brothers got talking about Uncle Steve, man, cool dude, right? Awesome guy. What did he kind of, any stories or one word to describe him growing up? Because you mentioned that he was always there, and I got a story about my parents for you, but how do you describe Steve Kennedy?
Wow, that is you mentioned one word. There's not one word.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because my dad and I growing up, there's a lot of times we butted heads, and then it's once you get older, you're like, oh my God, I'm just like him. I'm just like. That's why you butt heads.
Yes.
You butt heads because you're just like him. So
right.
As a kid, though, I'm like, dude, you don't know anything, whatever. But now my dad. I mean, we were never, we didn't ever have a terrible relationship. It's just what it is. A kid and a dad, you just butt heads. But when you get older, you're like, wow, dude, he knew a lot more than I thought. He, like I said, he was driving back and forth from Sandusky to Mansfield before we moved to Shelby. So you're looking at an hour drive to and from, and he's working 12-hour days. Mm-hmm. So he's away from us kids, my mom, his wife, for, the majority of the day, and then he's got to sleep and everything else. So I just look at that as what you're going to do for your family. And that showed me, no matter what you do, you try to work hard for your family, for your kids, and make it work. So he never missed a Little League baseball game. I remember, I don't know how he did it. I don't know if they should have fired him or what, but he would literally, he'd be at all of our games. He coached us. He'd be at all of our practices. And I didn't pay attention to it now, but I'm like, how did you get out of, how did you get out of work?
Right. It's amazing.
And he was at everything. I told kids this, at Clear Fork when we talk about growing up and all this other stuff, but I'm like, we weren't rich by any means, but we never went without. If I need a new baseball bat, glove, cleats, we got it. And it wasn't a spoiled thing. I wasn't like, yeah, I'm getting the new whatever. Nope, it's just what it is. But I also didn't, wear it out if I didn't need it, type of deal.
Right.
But they just, but I mean, both my parents, they always provided for us. We didn't ever go without something. But with with my dad, it's just funny because some of the, you get on, I know Facebook and other social media, the dad, that's a great account.
Yes.
And these dad jokes, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, dude, I do the same freaking thing. And so did my dad. It's the same thing.
Right.
You don't appreciate it till you are the dad.
Right. 100%. So you guys grew up in McKelvey and we were on Perry. Could you imagine if you didn't move, right? And then you had Uncle Brad around the corner on Sycamore Line, and Grandma was on a block the other. I mean, we were within a 3-block radius.
Uncle Brad. He was a funny kid.
Funny kid, right? Uncle Brad, funny kid. He was over on Sycamore Line. You guys were in McKelvey, which was like 2 blocks from Perry, and then Grandma was in between, right? McKelvey and McKelvey and Perry Street. Pretty wild. So
it's crazy.
But yeah, so my dad, talking, just one word, there's not one word, but one thing that comes to mind is how consistent, right? You talk about your dad being consistent. My parents were the same way, and they only missed one wrestling match in our entire career. I mean, we, college, my brothers and I, we were Reno, North Carolina, Maryland. They only missed one. And do you know who took us to that wrestling tournament in Norwalk in 1990? I think it was Val and Steve Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they missed one tournament, and I forget where we were at telling stories, and I think it was somewhere public setting. Like, yeah, man, remember that tournament you missed? That one tournament, 1988 at Norwalk High School. But I didn't tell anyone that it was Val and Steve Kennedy took
That is
my
awesome.
brother to the only tournament my parents missed. It was pretty. I'll never forget it. Right, it's the only one they missed. So
That is, I would say, I would have been little. I don't.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
somewhere in that time frame. I forget.
That's great.
Late 80s maybe, but back in the day, yeah, because your brother wrestled, Josh,
Yeah,
in the Paw
yeah,
Paw Club back in the day, which was the club, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess once we moved, you're trying to. This is just a guess. I know
Right.
we're talking about it, but you try to move and adapt to new kids in school and everything else, and wrestling wasn't that big of a deal. In Shelby as it was, up north. So I'm guessing that's probably why he kind of got out of it. But I don't know. Yeah, he was pretty good. I remember he placed in tournaments with was it the
Bland's
Schmidt
Schmidt's,
kid?
yeah.
Bland, yeah.
Well, you kind of do what your friends do, right?
Yeah.
Drew and Bryce and I was just talking about this last week. So Drew coached the biddies here, and then Bryce coached the junior high, and we kind of talk as you do what your buddies and your friends do, right? At that age, right? In youth sports. So you're probably, he was doing that because that's what his classmates did.
Yep.
And, probably moving to Shelby and trying to find your new friends and things like that. And they're probably baseball guys, right?
Absolutely.
Sport, so.
Yeah.
All right. Another question for you. How do you remember the name Cool Breeze starting?
So here's the deal. I was thinking about this. I actually, it's funny because we didn't talk about what we were going to write down.
No, this is totally thrown out, right? We didn't do a pre-show or a question.
No,
right? We're just
because I always do a pre-pod because I'm not good live.
Yeah.
I'm not good live, so I always do a pre-pod going over what we're going to do. So I'm like, all right, this will be fun, just kind of wing it. But I jotted down some stuff for my own sake. And Cool Breeze, it says Cool Breeze name is what I jotted down. So here's the deal. Cool Breeze was the nickname I was given. I don't even remember by who, a cousin or an uncle.
It was the trip we camped. I know it was that weekend, right?
Yes. Yes. So we got everybody there. And we're playing in the backyard, we're playing baseball, and I swung and missed at the ball. And they said, "Ooh, you guys feel that cool breeze?" Next thing I know, it's stuck. I'm like, no, that's not a compliment. That's like ripping one somewhere in a public place and everyone calling you stinky from now. Like, that's not a good thing. That I don't want that name. So, it's funny. My people down here, nobody calls me Cool Breeze. Why the heck would I tell them that story? But Sandusky people be like, "Hey, Cool Breeze, what's up?" I'm like, "Oh my God, what's up?"
Do you still get that from the cousins and everything?
Oh yeah. Every once in a while.
Cool.
But it's one of those things. I'm like, getting a nickname from something you did poorly.
Not good. Not one you're gonna embrace.
I love it.
I remember it. You were just always said cool, dude, or cool. Like that was your word. This is that. And I could be wrong, but that was your word, was cool on everything. And then the breeze was the whiffing. So I can't help you out there. I can't help you out.
I was waiting. I'm like, what's the breeze part?
No, I can't help you out there. But sorry.
Man,
that name did stick. And Kyle and Zach, our other cousins, when we were brewing, home brewing, and it was an award-winning recipe, Cool Breeze and Amber.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for a kickback. I'm still waiting.
I know. I think it was. It was either first or second in the state fair, that recipe. So
what?
Yeah,
no kidding.
Yeah. It was I don't know how high up the state fair ranks, but I'm sure it's a high one, right?
Wow. And so if it would have been named like Budweiser, it wouldn't have done it. Cool Breeze was the name.
Right.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. That's one of the nicknames that stuck in the family. Funny kid. Right, Cool Breeze.
Well, do you know the story behind the funny kid?
Was that your friend? Was it Tony or who was it?
So that was at the
state tournament.
state
Okay.
tournament.
Mhm.
That probably was your freshman year. Um, Jeff Young went with me, really good
Okay.
buddy of mine.
He was all state linebacker. Was he? Or
Tony Young was
was.
all state linebacker.
Okay.
Jeff
Okay.
Young was all state human being. Great
Okay.
dude.
Oh, cool.
Very good athlete.
Yeah.
So
Go on though. Sorry.
yeah, no, you're good. So Jeff and I went to the state, state meet to watch. That's when it was in Dayton. And we left school early. Dude, we thought we were awesome leaving school early to go watch. So we go and we get down there, and I remember Grandma Roth made scotcheroos. Well, of course, Uncle Brad's going to be around the scotcheroos, right? So
sniffed them out.
Yeah. So when we get there, whatever, my mom tells me, hey Gabe, you and Jeff go get some scotcheroos or in Grandma Ross hotel room. I was like, okay, cool. So we go down there, and we're, I think, 6th grade, maybe 5th grade. So we go down there, and Uncle Brad was in there, and Uncle Brad being himself, just everything's a one-liner, everything's hilarious.
Right.
And I remember walking away, and Jeff said, that kid's pretty funny. I'm like, that's my uncle, dude. That's my uncle. So that stuck. And Jeff probably doesn't even know. He doesn't even know that, like, he made a
He's
Roth
40 years
family.
old. Yeah, he's probably close to 40 at that time, right? Young 40s, late 30s, right?
That kid's pretty funny.
Yeah, and it stuck, right?
Oh man, that's
that
classic.
kid. He is a kid though, right? Kid at heart.
Yes. Yes, and that's what you got to be sometimes.
Right. So Uncle Brad's story, I don't know if you remember this one, speaking of the state wrestling term, because he's always there. So he was the one that started the family in wrestling. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
But he wrestled, then obviously Jude, and then, so on and so forth. But I don't know how it started. And I guess this is a question for aunts and uncles, but he would climb, because we'd win state or do well, whatever it is, team or individual. And he'd climb the flagpole at the Holiday Inn there in Worthington. Like, that was the tradition. He would climb the flagpole after the state finals or something, I
Uncle
don't know.
Brad?
Yeah. You never heard that?
No.
So the logo Kyle made of Funny Kid IPA was Uncle Brad. It was a guy climbing a flagpole. I'll have to dig it out and show you.
Dude, I did not. Why? What is that?
I don't know. I guess that's what we, I guess.
If you guys do well, I'm going to climb that flagpole.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
don't know. I have to figure it out. And I've probably been told the story, but I probably forget. But
wow,
that was the tradition. He'd climb the flagpole.
That is amazing. I didn't know.
Funny kid. What a good dude. What a good dude. That's awesome. Yeah. What are some of the other nicknames? Yeah. Midget lady. I don't know. Grandma was midget lady. I don't know if that was just because she was short, or is that a true nickname or something.
Dude, this isn't a nickname, but as soon as you were kind of cutting on Grandma Roth there, I'll never forget being at their house as a little kid, and you always think your grandparents are cool and funny and all that stuff, but I'll never forget them arguing, and I didn't think anything of it. And Grandpa saying, you better shut your mouth or I'm going to lock you in the closet. And this time I'm not going to let you out. And I thought it was hilarious, but neither of them laughed. I'm like, dude, this is great. And as I'm older, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a reality TV right there. And we grew up with it.
Oh yeah. They were, he was always, right, the good cop. She was kind of the bad cop usually, right? He'd sneak you candy, right?
Oh yeah. She ruled the roost. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. What did you go for? The candy jars. What did you go for?
I usually went for the the Jolly Ranchers.
Right. Yeah.
Jolly Ranchers was kind of the go-to. So by the time I got there, coming from Shelby, there's like the green ones left. Like, the uppers and Bryce has already gotten here.
Sunday, we would go every Sunday after church and raid the candy jar.
Yeah, well, as I say, I remember always going to Grandma and Grandpa's. Yeah, obviously we talked about for Christmas Eve, and being from out of town, we'd always go to her house, and then we'd go to the 5 o'clock mass. And I remember the one year it was so busy. I don't know what the deal was. The church service was so busy. That we were like outside of the church, that kind of where they gather for like I guess it'd be like the cafeteria almost area there.
Right. Yep.
I remember we had to hang out there.
The Commons, they call it. Yeah, the Commons.
And they had like speakers and stuff. And I can't remember if it was Corey or Troy. It had to have been Troy. Fell asleep on the ground. There was a bunch of coats that fell over, and he fell asleep on the ground.
And Julie were probably like, "Yeah, let him sleep."
Yeah, like he's quiet. Shut him up. He's quiet. Oh man.
Yeah, that's those. Yeah, those.
There's so many.
Those gatherings, right? The gatherings at Grandma and Grandpa Roth's. Yeah, going back to state. I don't know if all the cousins and family know us. So, Grandpa, he was at all the sporting events, all the St. Mary's. I'm huge fan. And at the upper side, they didn't go to my dad's sport. This wasn't their thing. Sports weren't their thing. But Grandpa, man, him and Eileen, man, Butch and Eileen, they were to everything, right? Butt sisters, right? Marilyn Eloise.
Dude,
but
the best thing about the sisters.
The sisters, right?
They always wore the same thing. So when you're sitting at the shot
that knit,
at state, yeah, well, you look for like, and I don't mean to be rude at all, but you look for a blurb because they're next to each other.
Right.
You look for a blurb of the same color and boom, right there they are. You're like, oh, there's the sisters. And dude, they were huge sports fans.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it wasn't, they didn't take their eye off. Like they knew everything. I remember going to their house, geez, oh Pete's, when Shaq played at LSU.
Really?
I don't know why. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember
they babysat you or something. We used to be over there to babysit you.
They were watching a college basketball game. I don't know how many geez, oh Pete's at that time. I don't even know. 60-year-old ladies are sitting there watching LSU college basketball game. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Maybe they had an eye for talent. They knew Shaq was going to be his dad.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah. So I got a story of of the sisters, but going back to Grandpa. So I remember my junior year, he was in the hospital. He wasn't doing so hot, but they ended up wheeling him in my junior year. And so he was there for my state tournament. And then he was there senior year, and he made it, was doing better. And then finally Corey's senior year, I think Corey could tell it better, obviously. And it's all kind of a blur. I mean, we're, being at the shot, every year there's highs and lows, right? Usually. But so he passed right before Corey won the state finals. That was the first state he missed. So it was an hour before Corey wrestled, and broke it to Corey after. Corey was pretty close with him, obviously. I mean, we all were, but it's just kind of cool, kind of eerie, right? Yeah, he found a way to watch him. We told Corey, after the match. We didn't tell him before, but it's pretty wild, man. He, being down, Dayton and Columbus, not missing matches. I remember being at state duels and wheeling him in. I remember carrying him up to St. Mary's. At the steps up. We had to carry him in his thing. So. Pretty cool, man. We were pretty blessed, right?
Absolutely. I remember seeing him. They were bragging about how great his seats were when he was able to go and he was in the wheelchair, because he had, you get to sit in that certain section. And I remember, as he was getting pretty bad, but I remember it was probably the year before he passed. He was there and he had a SMCC sweatshirt on. And that was the year that Joe Hyland from Shelby got runner-up, got beat by Keith Cup in the finals. There was 2 seconds left. Joe hit some move, but it was just too late to be the first ever state champ from Shelby. But so Joe was there, and Joe was really good. And I remember Grandpa Roth lifted up his SMCC shirt, and he had a Shelby wrestling sweatshirt. I'm like, where did he get that?
That's cool.
There was no Amazon Prime. I don't think Eileen and Butch were Amazon Prime. I was like, dude, that is all. I thought that was really cool. They got all these, grandkids and kids and all this stuff. And there's only one set that's living and from Shelby, Ohio. And I just thought that was cool.
That is cool. I didn't know that.
I thought that was pretty cool, because it's obviously we're all there to see you guys and cheer on, all the Sandusky St. Mary's kids and coaches and all that stuff. But it was cool that he had that. I thought that was awesome.
Right. That's so cool. So
what's your story about the sisters?
My mom likes telling this one, and I'm going to butcher it, but, so they lived together. For people who don't know, never were married, lived together in the house, they grew up in, all the way through there. But I don't know which one, the aunts could probably tell us. They said, when one of us die, I'm going to move downtown to the high rise, pretty much saying when you die, I'm moving down there. I find it funny just knowing them, right? Knowing that, man, when one of us die, I'm going to move down there.
Well, that was the thing. We
Talking
never
trash, right?
we never knew which one was which because they were called the sisters.
Right. Manson, right?
Yeah, well, because one was Marilyn, so we'd always do the do like we're playing guitar, like Marilyn Manson, and she probably knew, and she's like, "Shut up, you little brats!" But we're like, "Yeah, she doesn't know." It was probably the wrong one, anyways. It's probably the other one.
Right.
The sisters. How would
The
you like
sisters.
it? How would you like it? You and your brothers are in your 80s,
Yeah.
and your grandkids,
Yeah.
they start calling you the brothers.
Yeah. Well, right. Now we have twin girls, right? It could happen, right?
Yeah,
Could happen, right?
Right.
So how's being dad of the twin life? What's that?
It's funny. We were talking about this before we started recording this podcast. Being a father is something that nobody can explain to you, and you understand it until you are, and you can never explain it to somebody else who's not. It's just one of those things that you're going to be fine. I remember stressing out about having kids and like, am I going to be a good dad and all this other stuff. It's like, dude, you just be yourself. It's gonna work out, or whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But we struggled having kids for a couple years, and then finally we did some IVF and all that stuff, and we got pregnant with twin girls. And I just remember before we got pregnant how much it was a really, really tough time in our lives, wanting and praying and hoping to have kids and seeing other people that have kids and just wishing that was us one day. But I'll never forget going out to like restaurants, and it's just Tara and I sitting there before she was pregnant, and looking around at these parents who are not paying attention to their kids, and looking around at these parents who are getting an iPad or a cell phone out for their kids to watch at the dinner table. And I thought, these people are terrible human beings. We are never, ever going to do that. Fast forward having kids and actually living that life. Absolutely. You bust that thing out. Now there is timing with it.
A balancing act, right?
Yeah. You don't just say, here, kids, when you get there, here's the phone. They're going to get burnt out. But it's one of those things where it doesn't mean you don't love your kids. It means you love your kids, but you also love to eat food that's hot. You know what I'm saying? Like, geez, sometimes it's like, just get us a to-go boxes. I don't know if we're going to be here very long, but no, man, kids are awesome. Having twins is great because their personalities are so different.
Right.
And it's funny too, because people that don't see them every day will be like, which one's which, or they look alike.
Right.
And obviously you're
Right.
When you're around them every day, you're with them every day, you're like, dude, they are so different.
Right.
But it's funny. So let me ask you this. My daughters are 3.5, and I had heard on the radio, so it's got to be true. I had heard on the radio a couple months back that they had said, statistically saying kids, the best time for kids, as far as from a parent's perspective, is between like the age of 4 and 6, 4 and 7. Is that accurate?
I guess what it's all perspective, right? I mean, you look back at these videos and pictures, like, man, remember those? And I kind of said this to my mom, when grandma passed too, and mine are 7, almost 8 here in February. But I told my mom, grandma, your mom was there. I got to see them that evening right when grandma passed. But even if we had another 100 years with grandma, it still wouldn't be enough.
Right.
The same thing with my twins. They're 7 now, and it's so I guess if you're saying the prime is that age, I don't know. Maybe that's the Eddie O answer, but this whole COVID thing, it's been a blessing, the time with them. But if I had 100 years of them between the age of 3 and 6, I don't think it'd still be enough. Right.
Oh yeah. And that's one of those things is my wife and I will go back and forth with, whether it's, taking a terrible nap or whatever, prolonging bedtime for 45 minutes, whatever it is. It's like, you really do need to stop, because we've got our own life too. You've got your own life too. And it's like, you got to pump the brakes and just realize they're kids. They want your attention. They love you. And there's going to be, and my wife said this the other day, she's like, do you realize there's going to be a day where they come home from school and they're like, They don't want to talk to you.
Right. I'm
like,
almost
no,
I'm
they're
almost
not
there.
gonna, they're gonna want to talk to me. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm almost there. I have 13, 11-year-old daughter too. They're cool. They're really cool. Awesome girls. But it's, they're the twins are more on the immature side, because they're the young ones and they're talking to each other all day. But it's everything, like Christmas right now. It's like, okay, is this the last Christmas they're gonna be this excited for this, or when are they gonna stop calling me daddy anymore? I
Right.
took them to practice the other day with me, and coaching, and they're doing their homework on the side, and they're daddy, I need help. It's like, man, it's like, is this gonna be the last the last week or last day, who knows what. But no, it's been awesome, because we've your boy now, but we come from all boys, so everyone's like, oh, in that time Drew had 3 boys, Corey had a boy after them, but it's kind of, so it's like the first girls,
Yeah, but it's like
are my stepdaughter, so it was like, I had twin boys, like, holy cow, up for girls. It's kind of cool, so.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You don't know any different. People, once we had our girls, people like,
when I heard
so
you had them, I was like, yeah, I think I sent you guys text, like, yeah.
Yeah. They're like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know anything about softball or like gymnastics or anything. I don't know anything about that, but I'm gonna, support whatever they do. And when they tell me to help them put their princess outfit on, I'm like, let's go, let's do it. This is what we're doing. Right. But then, we've got a son who's a year and a half, and he watches everything they do. It's just funny how much of an impact not only you as an adult, but kids have on other kids, because they watch them and they're going to do what they do. And
well, you can probably speak to that though, right? I was the oldest of 4 brothers, and you're the youngest, so right, you probably wanted to be like, Josh and Nick, right?
Yeah, well, as I say, and I've said this before too to my kids at Clearfork. When you look at the order of the birth order, there is something to it. Mm-hmm. Because the oldest, you guys feel like you're entitled to everything because you're the oldest.
I got a story of Nick and I. After this, let me share you. I don't remember this one.
The middle child is messed up because everyone forgets about the middle, which makes sense. You look at Drew and Corey. I mean, that makes sense. But the middle child, and then you got the youngest. Me and Cheeks, me and Troy.
Troy gets waffles in bed. We joke with Julie. I get, this weekend when he's home, we'll be like, you need to practice some bed, Jules.
Because your parent, it's obvious your parents stopped having kids because they finally figured it out. They finally had that golden child, and they stopped. They've missed so many times. They're like, yeah, we're done. Go get fixed. We're good to go. But it is funny because as a youngster, looking up to older siblings, they don't know how much you're watching. You didn't know that. You didn't know that when you were, when you're wrestling in the state tournament, that they're watching you warm up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're fixed on the mat, you're fixed on your opponent, you're fixed. They're watching, your brothers are watching you. And it's something that when you're old, you don't know that. But when you're younger, you want to be just like, you are that annoying kid, but you don't care because you want to be around them. You want to do everything that they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
So what is it from the older kids' perspective?
There's two thoughts that come to mind. I was obviously uber competitive. My parents always said I just like beat up on Drew quite a bit, right? But on the other end of that, when I got older, I was also very anxious and nervous before my matches. So, I would, Drew and I would, same size, 2 years apart, but we were very similar size. I remember, obviously being competitive, but at one point, I was returning state champ, and I had a kid that, wasn't very good, and he could tell I was nervous. Like, what are you nervous about, dude? You just won state, and you're nervous about this kid who's 500. And I truly would be nervous, before match, but I think it actually was better for me. So, he in a way pushed me, you know what I mean? In a way, and gave me confidence, but also pushed me because I was, competitive. I want to be better, right, than whatever they're going to come up and do, right? But yeah, he, Drew and Corey they didn't lack the confidence, I guess. I'm sure they did, but they didn't show it. But I won't forget, I think it was junior year. It had to be junior year because we were wrestling together, and it was a duel against, a local school, and the kid, no business, but I would be so nervous. I mean, up until 8th grade, I would puke on the mat. I'd be so nervous before.
Really?
Yeah. But I think that stressor, helped in a way, analyze. But speaking of being competitive though, I remember my mom still tells the story. I think we were at the zoo with you guys or something. And I was a Dolphins fan growing up. And Nick had the same exact jacket, same Dolphins jacket. You remember the story?
No.
Had same exact. I went over to him and we were young. I don't know, 6 years old, 8 years old, I don't know. And I said to him, "Mine's bigger and better than yours." Same exact jacket. And my mom don't let mine bigger and better, same.
I've heard her say that. That's what that's from.
That's what that's from. Me and Nick had the exact, we're a month apart, 2 months. Yeah,
dude, what a jerk.
Month and a half. I was a jerk, right? They said I used to, the Johnny jump up, you put in the doorway back in the day before they had these nice electronic stuff. They said at Perry Street, I just go by and punch Drew every time.
Oh, dude, I remember Uncle Ed, who is a phenomenal human being. Uncle Ed just screaming at you guys because you guys fought all the time, all the time.
Right.
And I remember him yelling and Aunt Julie yelling and whistling the night, and you guys were just, and I'm just like, holy. Are these guys gonna make it? Are they gonna make it to adult? Like, I don't know.
Was it at Cleveland Roadhouse or Perry Street or both? Or do you remember? Or just remember probably at your house? Probably fighting.
That was everywhere, dude. That was everywhere. And it's funny because now, like, seeing all you guys, at Grandma's funeral, not too long ago, it's like everybody matures eventually, and you guys get your brothers, your family, and I love it. But I'm like, oh my God, if your kids and your wives realize how much you guys freaking destroyed each other, but I think it made you better. Not that your parents at the time was like, this is okay, it's stressing us out, but it's gonna make them better.
Right. At that point, they were pulling that, like if Ed had hair, pulling his hair out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we fought quite a bit. I probably Drew and I, since we were close, because it was a 2, 3, and 4 year gap. But yeah, we recently took a trip, camping trip. I took my dad's RV and parked. Troy just moved over to Chagrin Falls, and we parked in the driveway and camped at his house all weekend. This was back in October. It's pretty cool. And just telling the stories and the laughs. We have a few on video. It's just those belly laughs that you can't manufacture. But going back to the brother thing, being the oldest, another piece of that, there's nothing like watching them, in sports. I was mentioned I super nervous. I mean, beyond nervous. Put it this way, I used to cry so much when I was little at wrestling, but I wouldn't quit because Drew was doing it. My dad made me introduce myself to kids in the pairing, because back in the day, you go in the back, up for Paw Club, Smith, whatever. And, stand next to the kid for like 15 minutes and go out and wrestle. And that was like, creeped me out. I'm super nervous. And my dad's like, if you don't stop crying, you're not wrestling. And so finally the crying stopped, but the nerves didn't stop, but because I was like, I got to wrestle. Drew's wrestling. But, watching the younger brothers, one-on-one, combat, right? Wrestling. There's that nerves was a true nerves. That was something, it was out of your control. I knew what they were feeling, right? And that's something, you wish you could take, I wish I would take that nerves of competing so they didn't have that feeling. So
sure.
It's as much as I beat up on them or, whatever it is.
So hold on, let me, so you are you're a 4-time state champ in the state of Ohio.
Right.
And I watched every single one of your state matches. I watched you get beat your freshman year by Tristan Boyd at districts.
Carrizales at districts.
Carrizales. And then Boyd was the one that you beat. Yes, at state. But and then they had that funny picture in your guys' trophy room of you with the single leg, and you're like looking at Carrizales' hair. Remember that picture?
Mohawk, right?
Yeah. So I remember all that stuff, but it's funny to think as a fan and as someone who loves you, a cousin, and rooting for you. I was terribly nervous watching, but I always thought Jared's smart, Jared's good. He's going to come out on top. But you're sitting there sweating it. So I'm in the stands like, oh, he's got this. And you're like, I don't know, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
What were your brothers like? Were your brothers when Drew couldn't have been nervous? Drew and Corey, there's no way. Those dudes
They
they
sweated confidence. I feel like at least they
yeah,
portrayed that. It could have been a facade. I don't know.
that's true. That's
I've never
true.
asked them that. I never.
That'd be interesting because some people they hide that better, and then some people like
Uh,
even if you're not good at something, you're like I'm the best.
they had swag
sometimes.
before there was swag. That was
Oh,
their
no
thing,
doubt
right?
about it.
Right.
No doubt about it. Drew was a technician. Didn't he wear that shirt? It's
Jason Samstag, Rob Weichel, who coaches with them now, they had shirts made,
I
and as
love
the
it.
technician, they're Drew fans, and Drew had we all had different styles, which is pretty cool too.
Well, it's funny talking about the state tournament. I was asking my mom about this before. I couldn't remember if it was you or Drew wrestling. One of you two were. I'm guessing it was you, and I'm thinking it was freshman sophomore year. It was early when we started going to state to watch you guys, and I remember Uncle Ed was sitting by us, and I want to say it was maybe a quarterfinal match. He was sitting by us, and whoever it was, you were Drew wrestling. You caught the kid and you put the kid on his back, and Uncle Ed is like screaming, throwing information out there for you. Not that you're going to hear it, but just losing it. And somebody was recording it by where we were sitting, and all of a sudden you hear Troy saying, "Hey, Dad, I found a quarter." Hey, Dad, I found, because Troy would like walk throughout the Schottenstein and just walk around. Like this day and age, that doesn't happen.
Oh,
But back in the day, they're like, he's an upper. You're gonna mess with an upper? That ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna work.
Some will find him. Right.
So, or your parents like, just get out. So I'll never forget Uncle Ed like screaming because one of you guys got, had a kid on his back and getting ready to pin a kid, and Troy found a quarter in the aisle. He's like, "Hey, Dad, like, what do you want me to do?" Uncle Ed is just going nuts. I'll never forget that.
That's funny.
But it's just funny because that also to me tells me what your family's about. Like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, my brother's wrestling. Like that was your life. That was your guys' life. It wasn't anything new. It didn't matter if it was a state final, state quarter. It's just like, yeah, that's what we do. He's wrestling. And Uncle Ed's being, I'm sure once the match was over, Uncle Ed knowing him was probably like, oh my God, what year's that quarter? Let's check it out.
Right. Well, Troy, they didn't, he was, at one point I was college through high school, core junior high, and Troy was in youth. Like he started much later because he's around wrestling 7 days a week right now. So I don't think he started like third or fourth grade. I could be wrong, but I know Troy started much later than us just because he was around it. It was like, and at that point they realized there's no rush. It's a lot of these parents are in the race to nowhere, right? And Ed realized that, when I was in youth and these middle school and high school guys, you're done. You're playing baseball now, right? But for Troy, they started him a little late because he was around it. He's still absorbing some of that knowledge and the things that went on in the sport, even though he wasn't competing. So
absolutely
pretty cool looking back on how things like that work with a quarter. I could hear that,
dude. I'll never. And I'm just like, Uncle Ed's screaming, and you just hear this voice, hey dad, I found a quarter. Like, are you kidding me? Go get some Donato's pizza. We'll kind of add them all up.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, nothing like it, man. Nothing like it. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So which at the moment, which one of your state finals matches was you most nervous about? Had to have been that fourth one, right?
Actually, no. I think by that time I was pretty dialed in mentally. I think with the visualization and focus and the repetition, and junior year probably because I was wrestling a returning state champ. There was 2 state runners up in my way, another state champ, and I think 2 state placers in that junior year bracket alone. So that was hectic looking back, but senior year I wrestled the same guy at sectionals, district, and state, and so it was 2 totally different years, I guess. Like I said, juniors, but I just can't believe, looking back. I mean, Corey battled some injuries, but we all placed every year. But we were just blessed with injuries. I mean, you see it in baseball, I'm sure, in football, just the injuries and the bad luck of whatever may happen, and just things bounced our way. I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of, we were very blessed. You just hear these freak act. I mean, my dad, I've told this story on my podcast. He had to quit contact sports as a sophomore in high school because he had too many concussions. I mean, yeah, that's out of your control, right? So we were pretty fortunate and pretty blessed. I mean, you see families that are really successful in sports, and then the injuries or whatever may happen, it just doesn't pan out. And so it's pretty cool. We're still involved.
Absolutely.
We were talking. Corey helps, Drew helps coach, and Troy, he helps here and there with various programs and people.
That is a heck of a staff. That is a heck. That is a who's who. I mean, so do you have like staff dinners and stuff?
No,
or is that just called Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it's called No, it's. I mean, we all have our input. We got other staff too, some great coaches, but it's and we're all busy with our other things going on in life, like family stuff. So when can't do one thing, one of us picks it up, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did you know when did you know you wanted to be a coach? Did you always
yeah. So when I lived up in Akron, when I was getting my master's, I helped a little bit with St. V's a little bit. And, it was kind of that time I was kind of I don't know, a lot of people just take a couple years of, being done with college. It's like some guys know right away, I want to get back in right away. Where other ones like, I need to get out for a couple of years and just kind of, refresh. Right. So I helped a little bit up at St. V's. And then when I came back to town in 2009, I was, I told myself, if I'm living in Sandusky, I have to coach, right? There's, the coaches that coach me, they didn't have to do it, right? I don't have to coach, but if I'm not doing it, then what the heck? Why have I been blessed with the ability to do it, right? So it's, it's gratifying. It's a lot of hours, like but it's, if I'm not doing it, then why was I blessed with the ability to do it, right? So
good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah. So
do you real quick, do you remember I think I've talked to you about this and the time I think it was Thanksgiving at your guys' house that again all of us cousins love sports,
right. I mean we'd always talking sports on the holidays, right?
Dude, I remember watching the Cowboys Dolphins game in the snow and Drew crying with Leon Lett.
Right. We were just watching that this year. It was like the top 10, and we were like, remember that? Yeah. We were sitting in the living room. Right.
Yeah. I was stunned because I'm a Cowboys fan, and Drew was a fan of everybody, but Drew was a Cowboys fan that day. Yeah. And I remember him like crying and losing it. And I'm just like, dude, I cannot believe we lost that game. I'm 37. I still remember that. Right. That was a major impact on our lives, I guess. But no, one of the Thanksgivings, we had talked about how the dads are all sitting around watching sports and the women are in the kitchen, yapping and all that stuff. But I remember one of those, we went downstairs at your guys' house. We went downstairs and Corey and Bryce boxed.
See, I don't remember. I remember us talking about this.
It was like a full-fledged
down like where boxing. The weight room is kind of. We had a wrestling / weight room down there.
Yeah, it was
the garage.
It was a full.
I was probably playing Madden or something. I don't remember that because remember we played Madden in my parents' bedroom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we set up the Sega. Was it Sega Genesis?
Sega or the original, the first PlayStation, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, one of them. Right. They all run together, right?
But I remember being down there in the watching that,
right? And
I remember thinking, this is all like this is UFC before UFC was a thing.
Did you guys box? Did the Kennedys box at all?
No, we didn't really use gloves.
Okay. Bare knuckle boxing. Huh?
But no, I remember watching Corey and Bryce box, and it ended up with one of them crying, and this is like probably elementary school type deal. But I remember my brother Josh and our cousin Zach got ripped by the ants when we got upstairs. They're like, well, what happened? What's going on? Again, I don't remember if it was Corey or Bryce, probably both of them. They probably both cried and then hugged afterwards and went and built a fort. But I don't remember who, one of them was upset, got hurt, whatever. Mm-hmm. So we all went upstairs, and the most of us were laughing, and it was funny. And then the ants just laid into us.
They're the oldest.
Yeah, like why would you guys let that happen? And I'm like, yeah, guys, like why would you? But really, I was like, that was awesome.
Yeah. See, yeah, we We had gloves grow. I mean, even on Perry Street, my dad would not make us, but let us box, and we'd do it out in the yard, do it in the dining room. My dad has video of it, of Drew and I boxing, and obviously I was 2 years old, a little bigger, but there's a video of him just connecting one time, and I fell, and and he's like cheering, and my dad wouldn't let me hit him, type thing,
Like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's over, he got you, type thing. But so yeah, the boxing thing probably was normal, right? But
Yeah, right.
But Zach and Josh probably like encouraged it a little bit prior,
Well,
probably let
I
it
think
go too far, right?
Yeah, that's a perfect way to end your family Thanksgiving, is to go have a boxing match in the basement.
I must have been on Madden. Nick and I were probably building a fort playing Madden or something.
Oh, no doubt.
Switching from the I to the T, probably. No, what was your favorite video game growing up? Because I remember coming to you guys, and you guys had different games than us. Because I think that's the first time I played that college football. Before it was like college.
Bill Walsh. It used
Right.
to be Bill Walsh,
Right.
back in the day.
Because they didn't have the team names. I remember playing at your house. We didn't have that, so when we came to your house, I was like, "This is sweet."
Yeah, so like Texas A&M was like College Station. It was like the campuses.
Yeah, State College.
Ohio State was
right.
Columbus, South
Mhm.
Bend.
Mhm.
Dude, that was awesome. And Rocket Ismail was like the dude on that.
Yes, yes.
Which he should have been, because he was stunned in real life.
What was the play, like student body right or something?
Yeah. Student body right, student body left. That was
Yeah.
just man. That was just those were the days. It was funny because that's way before you could do like a career mode or franchise
Mhm.
mode or playing online.
Mhm.
But it was awesome. It was fun. Video games were great. And I was the weird kid that like was okay with someone else playing my video game.
Okay.
Like most kids are like, no, I want it. I was like, no,
Right.
this is cool. Like,
Yeah.
I want to watch. I don't know why. I just
Football too, because it's like one of the first 2-player type games, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
and then
Tecmo
it
Bowl,
would,
Super Tecmo. Those are like, all right, you can compete, right? You don't have to
the
play the
problem
computer.
is those old games, you can see what plays they're picking.
Right.
So I could see what you're doing on offense, and then I'd be the defense. I'd wait to pick a play. And
Yeah.
you can't look at the bottom part of the screen.
Right. Yeah.
Those were awesome. And that was before like the obviously then shortly after that, like Madden came out.
Right.
Those games were awesome. But I like the old like Mario Kart, Cruising USA. Like I like those
My
things.
kids have the Switch, and that's funny. We were doing Mario Kart. It was Thanksgiving weekend. The one twin was all excited because I was beating it. She's like, "You did it, Dad!" So it's kind of cool.
You're like, you have no idea.
You have no idea. So I had little plug here. They were doing the dance game, and I had a break. I was like, "I'm doing the dance." I forget whatever, Dance Revolution, whatever it's called. And then the one twin beat me, and I beat the other. I decided to rub it in. Yeah, it's like, you want to play Mario Kart now? So,
like, next we're gonna break out the Atari.
Yeah, right. I remember playing the Atari at Aunt Sharon's. That was the first time I ever played Atari, playing baseball in Sharon's basement on Waverly, which was a block over from you guys on McKelvey. Actually, that was my first house. It was straight across from Aunt Sharon's house. I remember her house on Waverly over there, but
that's awesome.
I still have the house, actually. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, crazy stories, man. Yeah, video games. They were something else back then.
Oh yeah, that's what I say. Like nowadays, the video game, the graphics are stupid, crazy, awesome. Just the story mode of these games. It's no wonder that kids spend too much time, because it's easy to get addicted to it.
Well, they're made to be addicting, right?
Yeah,
they're made to be addicting.
Yeah, I mean, I'll harp on kids for doing it, but I'm like, dude, if this stuff was around when I was 14, 15, game over, man.
That's why I don't have a gaming system in the house.
I would have.
It's like I don't want the temptation.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's funny. That's so funny. So you have anything else, man? Any other memories or stories or anything to ask, share, tell, or?
I don't. I think that's pretty much it. I think it's been a good conversation. I think this is cool because it's sad when you get older. You're busy and you don't see each other as much.
Mm-hmm.
Even siblings, you don't see each other as much as you should or you wish you could. But it's cool to connect and tell the stories, no matter where you go and what you do, or where I go, you got that bond, that those stories forever.
Oh, for sure.
that connect you. And there's going to be a ton once we get off this Zoom.
Yeah.
That we're like, I'm going to text you, like, dude, remember the time, but no, dude, this was fun to reminisce and talk sports, talk life, talk family. So it's good stuff.
Perfect timing here, right before we're at Christmas. I think it's, perfect timing to connect on this. We talked like 6 months ago at least, right?
Yeah.
6-8 months ago, talking about doing this. And, I think even like I said, even if we had 100 years of playing baseball in the backyard of Shelby or Cleveland Road, I don't think it'd be enough. It wouldn't be enough time, right?
It's funny. And the same thing as, with your kids and my kids, like whatever their friend group is. And obviously everything's messed up different now because of COVID, but it's like, they're doing stuff on a daily basis that one of these days, one of these things they do is going to be the thing that they remember forever, And
it's not even what they're supposed to be doing at the
time. No, it just be, remember that one time we did, and dad got mad. It's like, they're going to have those stories too. And we don't even know it. We're going to be talked about long after we're gone, because of funny or stupid things or whatever. But something I did want to bring up before we end this, the roll situation. Throwing rolls at Thanksgiving. It even got to the point where there was roll throwing. I can't remember whose wedding it was, but there was roll throwing at yours, right? Wedding. No. Well, it could have been. I remember Drew hit one of the sisters, I think, like in the back.
Of course, Drew.
I couldn't tell you which sister it was.
He probably got blamed for it. It probably wasn't even him, right? So to paint the picture, right? We're talking about my parents' house. It's kind of an open plan. And this is, he built it in 90. So it's kind of not the floor plan then, but he kind of, Eddie O, we know how he operates. It was an open plan. So I think it was enough to seat, I want to say 60 people. So it was, 30 people on each side. We just, table. And we were telling, so you can get into the roll stuff. But so we had, I think we had at one time 80 people at Thanksgiving, in the 90s at my parents' house.
Some of them we didn't even know. They weren't even related. They just showed up.
Cousins of the cousins of the cousins, right? But I remember my dad, because we moved in, we didn't have flooring, we didn't have cabinets, we had like just wood for cabinet. We moved in, he built it. We were in between houses. But my dad, he had a toilet he was going to install, and he put your dad's name, he put Steve Kennedy, and that was his seat, so-called seat for Thanksgiving. But go on. So we're sitting there, 60, 80 people, right, at Thanksgiving, and I don't even know how it started, right?
I think I want to say my dad started, or at least that's what my memory is.
Right.
He had asked, there's so many people at the table, and with the whole thing of like, pass this down, that ain't happening at that, you can't do that. So he had asked, and I want to say it was Uncle Ed, maybe was at the other, and he's like, hey Ed, you need a roll, and he threw it. He threw the roll, and it was like, what? And so that became like a tradition. It was a holiday tradition to throw the rolls, and it was just something that started off by, my dad's brain was probably like, you shouldn't do this. What if it breaks something or whatever? But it was like, it's funny that he did, because it's something that we remember now. And like I said, I'm pretty sure Drew hit one of the sisters at a wedding.
Say that, it brings it up.
Yeah. So, and then of course, like he hurried up and got back, like it wasn't him, like looking around. I don't know.
Speaking of Drew and the sisters, what about when Drew drove the three-wheeler into the telephone pole at your house? Didn't they rip him a new one? Or, how do you remember that?
I remember, I remember he got, because that three-wheeler, the thing was terrible, but it was iconic for the time.
Oh yeah.
The
thing had a perfect yard for it.
Yeah. I feel like now that thing would cost maybe $75, maybe. But then it was like, this is better than a first car.
Yeah.
But that thing got wrecked a lot. I remember Drew wrecked it.
I wrecked it once. I know for sure. I got my leg all jacked up. The wheel was spinning on it.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing, is the thing was not safe. And now, like, if my kids were doing that, I'd be like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But back in the days, like, come on, let us. But I remember my brother Nick one time wrecking it in the creek, and he came up to the house, and it was just him outside. Nobody else was outside. And he goes, hey, Dad. And Dad's like, yeah, what's up? He goes, I wrecked the three-wheeler. And Dad's like, where's that? He's like, oh, it's sitting in the creek. So it was like, that thing was always getting wrecked. The stories that thing could tell would be amazing if it could talk. But no, the dirt bike too. People wrecked it all the time. But Drew was Drew definitely, I don't remember the telephone pole
He hit
one.
the telephone pole, and the sisters jumped in. Why are you right? Because he was younger end of it. It's probably Jared's doing what I'm doing type thing. Probably didn't ask to get on it. Probably just jumped on it, but he drilled. I think he was like waving to someone and then drilled it.
Oh,
Something stupid, but
well, they were probably ticked because they were up next. They were waiting in line. Like if you screw something up and that 3-wheeler,
you're right.
we're gonna have it out. But
Yeah. No,
that's
that's
awesome.
some good stories though. That your house is fun. It's fun because I used to live out on some land, and we bought the kids a little 4-wheeler, so they use it a little bit, and then we moved. We got it at the my wife's family farm now, but it's not the same. Not the same as
Sure.
the 3-wheeler stuff.
No, yeah, absolutely.
So cool, man. Yeah, we might have to do this for the holiday. I was thinking out loud. I don't even obviously you say something, doing something else, but every holiday maybe you and I interview a family member or something. Easter. Easter's up
dude.
next. Get somebody on. I don't know.
Dude, that would be
Tell stories, and then we can share it on the holiday with an Easter with the family or something. I don't know. Nothing we have to post on our podcast, but maybe something to share with the family. Kind of.
Yeah,
For
no,
old
I think
time's
that's
sake.
I think that's
Yeah.
cool because, like you said, the audio and the video that's gonna last forever, way long after we do. So it's like that's cool to have that stuff and to have those memories and also people are gonna have different stories too. Uncle,
Right.
geez, Pete, get Uncle Brad on here. Just say go.
Right. Yeah. Just go hit record.
No
Well,
script.
cool
Yes,
because it's the Roth family. You're not a Roth. I'm not a Roth. But we are Roths. But
Yeah.
people that know the Roth will understand some of these stories. But
Yep.
yeah. So cool stuff. Great stuff. Cool Breeze.
Yeah, I appreciate you you coming up with this idea, and it was a blast, man.
Yeah. So cool, man. You keep in touch. Tell the family I said hello, and we'll definitely keep in touch. I appreciate it.
Will do, buddy.
Thanks.